All right, welcome back to another episode of Matt Learns Rome, I guess. Today I'm going to be setting up I'll go through the process of setting up my weekly review, but I just wanted to show you quickly what that looks like right now. So as you can see, I have these several questions that I'm just going to ask myself. How did my last week's goals go? So depending on the week, I will set goals at the end of each of these reviews. And then the idea is I've got this previous weekly reviews query here. And so that's going to show me last week's review. I actually did one yesterday. That's why this shows up. I do the last month, actually, just in case. It would have been like a nice to have if I did like every week. But I realized that there's potential that I do my review on Saturday one week and then on Sunday the next week, and then I wouldn't have that overlap. And so just to avoid all of that, I just made it last month, and it's kind of cool to be able to see like the entire history. So at the start of each weekly review, I'm gonna go through all of my my last week, and I'm gonna look at kind of like what the goals were, and then how well things, whatever I had planned for the next week. And so from there, I'll just kind of write a summary, trying to build positivity, what went well, what personally significant events happened. So personally, with the pandemic and everything, my life has been very difficult to kind of like remember everything that's going on in the world. And then just personally, I'm disconnected with my family and friends. So I've added this. And so what I do is I track personal life events, with my family or with my friends or whoever. And the idea is kind of just to have a record. I might use this one day to like kind of look back and remember this year a bit better. And I think that it's nice to have a record of things like that. And then what I might have improved. So, thinking about how I might have done things better this week. What did I learn this week? What do I think is going to happen next week? So this is more in line with predictions. Just kind of like, this is what I expect to happen. I don't know. And then what am I worried about next week? And what do I want to accomplish next week? And so I'll actually drop one of these most of the time. Like this week I wrote that I was worried. If I had just like general predictions or something, or if I was really excited about something or whatever, I might put it up in here instead. And then I have a list of another query that just shows me upcoming events, which is a way of me kind of tracking what's going to come next, and then I can plan my next couple of weeks. And so that's kind of just the structure of it as of right now, and I'll show you how I went about building this. All right, so I'm on my template view now, and I'm going to go in now and just quickly create a new template. This is my weekly review. New, I guess I'll just call it. And then I'm going to put Rome/templates. Whenever you make a template like this, you're going to want to add a title to the top. Now this is going to be weekly review in this case. The purpose of this title is twofold. One, it's going to keep everything consistent and together, and it makes it possible to like close them, and it keeps it kind of tidy on your daily pages if that's where you're doing this. Additionally, having the title enables us to do things like querying, which we'll get to in a short moment. To figure out how to build a good template, we always have to start with, why are we doing this? So every week I want to ask myself a few questions, and I want to kind of review, process, and reframe the week. Now, for reframe, what I mean is I am a personally overly self-critical person, and so I, like many of us out there, will jump to negative conclusions. And so what I like to start with, just to kick things off in a good pace, is what went well this week. And that's just gonna make me a bit more hopeful. Now I'm gonna make this into an attribute by using 2 semicolons. The reason for doing this is I can now go in and click this as a page and see every previous week's example of this. And I've heard that it's useful for querying. I haven't used it a whole lot. You can also build ref tables and things like that. So maybe if you wanted to like build a brag list where you just reference all of the what went well this week, or wins this week or whatever it is, right? But I'm just keeping it in there because it makes sense and it gives it a little style and it's nice to kind of have. So these are my questions that I want to review for the week. So I've kind of broken it down into reframing, processing, like thinking about what's happened that's significant, what I might have improved. So this is where I'm allowing the self-critical to come in. Then I want to come back to like, all right, what did I learn from those negative experiences? And now some personal tips that I like about this is I don't frame things in a negative perspective on this list. So when I'm saying what I might have improved, let's say I slept in a lot this week, I wouldn't write in I slept in. Instead, I want to write this as like a positive version of what happened, and this kind of just like reframes things for me. So I will write something like, I woke up at 8 a.m. every day. And so the idea here is just kind of like thinking through what happened. Now, after that, I've tried to record something that I learned or a few things that I've learned. Then I think about what is going to happen the next week, and then I'm going to think about what am I worried about next week and what I want to accomplish. Now, this is where the goals come in. Now, this makes it easy for me to come in and do a quick review and summary every single week to kind of like get a good snapshot of where I was. Now, I want to make this a bit more interactive for myself and to kind of like, you know, if I'm going to plan out my next week or if I'm going to make assumptions about my next week, I want to kind of check and see what happened versus like what I predicted. Because I'm trying to train myself to kind of focus on what's, you know, ground myself in reality. And that is going to help me move forward from, you know, week to week and improve every single time. So what I started to do is I added a query here. And so I will show you quickly how a query works. And so I'm not going to make this an attribute because I don't really want to index this. But now I'm going to make my query. Now, what do I want to query for? All right. Well, I want to query for weekly reviews that happened between last month and yesterday, to not include this week's. And so now I'm going to get a list of all of my reviews from the last week. And I just keep that collapsed so that it's not kind of noisy, but it's there for the review. And then at the bottom, I wanted to add a list of kind of like a snapshot of what's coming up. So all I did was I added another section here, what's coming up. And under what's coming up, I'm going to create a second query. And this is actually just a simple query saying I want to get all notes between today and next week. And now this is a special querying syntax, but the idea here is that I actually am going to get a list of every single note that's been tagged with a date from today to next week. This gives me a way of taking things into my inbox, kind of giving them a later date and pushing them off. This is also one of those things that I've gotten from getting things done where everything is either scheduled, I think deferred, delegated, or do it right then and there if it takes less than 5 minutes or something like that. Once again, need to reread that book, but that kind of summary is really nice, and it makes it so that I can just put something into Roam and then just forget about it. All right, so now what does this actually look like in the application? So every week I get this little summary, and I will have a question here to ask myself, how did last week go? And in that, I'm gonna write a quick summary, and so I will just open up this guy here, and I will see last week's review, and I can kind of go through that and write my summary or kind of think through that. Then I'm going to think about what went well. Then I'm going to write down and journal a little bit about anything significant that occurred. Then I'm going to process and kind of think through what happened the last week and what I what I learned from that, and what I want to go do going forward. And then obviously I've got this little what's coming up here. And so what you can see is I've tagged a task for myself for the 10th, which is my tune-up. So this kind of gives me a summary of all relevant tasks or events that are coming up in the week, and it's just kind of convenient to have. And so that's more or less how this works. Happy roaming, I guess. Good luck with that. I hope that you're able to use this, and I hope that this is kind of useful for you. And if you have any feedback, please let me know. And if you like these sorts of videos, feel free to subscribe. I am going to be posting weekly little tips and tricks that I've learned. I might vary from Roam to programming tools to other productivity hacks. So if you're interested in that kind of just systems thinking and adding some systems to your life, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you soon.